Okay, so in this video, I'm going to go through how to create your first WebSocket program. So I'm going to start by creating a new project in IntelliJ. Just going to choose the standard settings, and I will create this command line application. I will call this Full Stack Mastery WebSocket Programming as my project, and it's going to be com Full Stack Mastery WebSocket Programming as my base package for this project. Okay, so let's load it up. And I'm going to have to import a couple of libraries to get started with WebSocket programming. For this project, we're going to have to import some libraries. So one of the libraries that is going to be needed is this Spark Java framework. And you can get that by using Maven to import this Spark Java and the Spark Java core. Right? So what I'm going to do is I am going to go to this project and then go to File and Project Structures. And here, this dialog, I'm going to go into this library navigation on the left and then choose Maven. And I'm going to import that library from Maven. So I'm going to just type in the name of the artifact, which is com Spark Java. I'm going to do a search. So after I did the search, it's going to return a list. And I'm going to choose the one that also bundles the time leaf template. And if you choose this, it also brings in the Spark Java core. Okay, so you can see that it also includes the Spark Java core as well as the time leaf engines that we're going to be using to create those templates for the client. I'm also going to add another library for logging. Right, this is going to be Logback Classic because Spark Java is using a logging framework. So I would have to import this in order for it to show any log outputs. So in this case, I'm going to choose this Logback Classic. I'm going to choose the one that is not alpha, and just the production version. Okay, so now that we have these two libraries, the Spark Java and also the Logback Classic for logging, I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to download those libraries. And now we can actually do some coding. Okay, so if you go to the Spark Java website, there is going to be a section for implementing WebSockets. We're going to use this as our template. And so here, I'm just going to copy these two and place it into my main. Okay, and I'm just going to preface this with Spark. Okay, and I'll import this Spark class. So this Spark class actually has a lot of static methods which are basically used to declare your web application. Okay, and then here what this is saying is that I'm going to create a WebSocket which is listening on this path /echo. And it's going to be implemented by this class called Echo WebSocket. Okay, and we haven't declared that class yet, but here is the template that we need to implement that class. Okay, so I'm just going to select this piece of code, and we're just going to have it create this class for me, and I'm just going to paste the code into this class. Because here I just created this Echo WebSocket class in the same package. Right, so I'm just going to replace the definition of this class with whatever is on that website. So to go through what happened, when we create a WebSocket, it's using annotations to annotate the class to become a WebSocket class. So there's an annotation called @WebSocket, and then you have to annotate the class with the WebSocket to tell the Spark that this is the class that implements the WebSocket. And there's also a couple of methods that you need to annotate in order to listen for specific events. One of them is just going to be on WebSocket Connect, which will be called when there is a new client connected to this WebSocket server. And the parameter is going to be a session. And then also you have this on WebSocket Close, which is going to be called when the WebSocket disconnects. And you also have a message callback, which is annotated with this on WebSocket message. And the signature for these methods are predefined. So you have to use the parameters that are here. So basically it's a good practice to just use this template as a starting point. Okay. And then so that's basically how you're going to create the first WebSocket program on the server side. And then if we run it, well, the log is going to say that it's going to be running a web server listening on port 4567. So if we go to that port, you're going to see that nothing is there, but it's actually indeed running. So the first thing that you notice is that Spark Java is actually using Jetty as the underlying web server engine. So let's put in something here. So for Spark deals with route. Let's create our front page. Alright, we can say that, right? So let's say we return a string called hello world. Once we do that, we have to restart the server in order for this to register. So now we actually have this working web server, right? So let's go ahead and create the client that will have the WebSocket client implementation, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a package called templates, right? So this is actually the default location where Spark Java is going to look for the template files, right? And here I will create another route called echo. Well, what I'm going to do is let me change something here. Let me change the WebSocket path to say WebSocket here. And then I'm going to just use this echo as a way to return this template. Right? In order to render a template, we have to create a model, which is just a map of string to object values. Right, I'm just going to create a instance of this time leaf engine and then call render and passing it a model and view instance. Right, and then this takes the model, which is going to be the map of string to object instances, and then the name of the template. And in this case, I'm just going to call this echo view. So then it's going to use this template called echo view, right, which is just a HTML file. So here I'm just going to create an HTML file called echo view. Okay. And then so what this does is basically it creates a template engine instance which will render this echo view template with this model. Okay, so I can show you what that means later, but for now, let's run this, and we should be able to go to this echo path, and then that will basically render this HTML, right? And then in that output, we should see this WebSocket echo example on the web page. So let's go there, right? And this route says echo. Okay, so here we have this WebSocket echo example. So in order for the client web page to connect to our WebSocket server, we have to create a WebSocket instance. And that's what we're going to do right now. So we have to create the JavaScript code inside the script tag, right? So we're going to create a instance of a WebSocket class. And for WebSockets, it accepts one parameter, which is going to be the URL of the WebSocket. So it's just very similar to HTTP URL, but in this case, you have to start the URL using a protocol called WS, which stands for WebSocket, which indicates that this is going to be a WebSocket connection. And I'm going to then specify just this localhost, and I'm going to then figure out the path to the WebSocket by just going back to the main program and choosing the route that I mapped this WebSocket to. So in this case, it's going to be this /WebSocket/echo, right? And I'm going to put that here. So there are a couple of callbacks that we need to implement in order to do something useful. One of those callbacks is going to be on open, which is going to get called when the WebSocket is connected to the server. Okay, and the second callback is going to be on close, right? Which is going to be called when this WebSocket gets disconnected from the server. Okay, so let's see how that works when we try to run it inside this Chrome, right? Because for Chrome we have to bring up the developer console. in order to see the outputs. Okay, so you can see that there's an event called open, and then from there you can see all the attributes of that class, right? So the one thing that we're going to do now is that when the WebSocket is open, then we can start to send a message to the server. The way that we do that is to call send, and then we can say hello world, which is just a string. Let's compile this, and then we don't see any additional output, right? But on the server, let's see if we can see something, right? And okay, so I'm going to put a breakpoint here. I'm going to rerun this main in debug mode, which is here. Okay, and so you can see that it actually sent a message, and then that message says hello world. Okay, and then this is supposed to send back the same message. But on the client side, we do not have this callback that receive messages, so let's do that. So the callback that receives the message is going to be on message, and it's going to take an event as a parameter, right? We can then just log this event. Let me change this event to be the full name just for consistency. So now that we have this on message callback, right? Let's see what happens. I'm going to turn off this debug, right? And then, so you can see that it actually gets a message event. Okay, and then if we disconnect the server, let's say I restart the server, I'm expecting there's a close event to be received from the WebSocket. And so that's basically how you're going to handle the workflow of that WebSocket. Because the first thing you need to do is to have the onOpen. OnOpen is going to be called when the WebSocket connects to the server. And only after the WebSocket is open can you send the server any data, right? So here we do this inside the onOpen handler to send the server a string called hello world. And then that is going to get received by the server on message callback. And what we do simply is to send back the string to the client. And this is why this is called the echo WebSocket. Right? That's all it does is echo back the message. And then from there, we basically receive that message from the server on this onMessage callback. So that's basically how you can create the first WebSocket program. So this allows you to have some bi-directional communication between the server and the client, right? Using a persistent connection, which is handled by this WebSocket. So to save time, let me make this program more robust by just replacing this with an actual script that I just created before. So this code is still the same, right? Because we have this onMessage and onOpen, right, handler, right? But what I did was I just created a form that we can type in some message and then send it to the server, and then we basically echo back what the server said. And I'm using jQuery as well as Bootstrap for this program. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so here if I type something, say how are you, right? It's gonna bring back how are you to from the server to the client. Right, so let's make sure that the server is actually doing what it's supposed to do, right? We can change the message here by we prefix this message with something so we know that it's actually coming from the server. So whatever we type in, we're going to send back you said followed by the message that that was sent. Right, so let's compile this, and then let's see if we can. Right, so here you go. So we have this prefix, says you said, which is appended by the server, right? And then whatever we typed in this case is my name is Jim, is going to get sent back to the client. Right, so this is how you can use WebSockets to create a bi-directional communication. Right. Good. Okay, so that is your first WebSocket program. I hope that you learn how to create a bi-directional communication with the server using WebSockets. Okay, so in the next program, we're going to learn how to do more of a push notification as well as a broadcast to multiple WebSocket clients.